Hey there. Welcome to the Call of Cinema. My name is Aaron. And if you're watching this when this comes out, then yesterday I talked a bit and highlighted a box set coming from Shout Factory, Scream Factory, which is the Mario Bava Blu-ray set. And there was a lot of love for it and a lot of hate for it at the same time. So in a roundabout way, that got me to the conversation that I want to have today. The value and the rising cost of physical media, where perceived value comes in, and where cost comes into the whole thing. We've talked a lot about that recently on the channel, but I think it's time for a little bit of a quick deeper dive. So here goes. There's no two ways about it. There's no way around. Physical media costs more, whether it's due to the technical aspect of remastering of 4K or it's a rights issue thing where rights now seem to be more limited in modern time. You'll see a company like Vinegar Syndrome put out some stuff, and a few months later, you'll see that get a different release from a company like MVD Rewind or Mill Creek. Look at Rad, or look at a couple of the VSAs that came out from MVD afterwards. Now, one doesn't and shouldn't negate the other. It has made collectors be a bit more cautious with what they're buying, when, and which one they perceive the most value in. And we'll get to that a bit more. We'll put that aside for 1 second because I want to get to the perceived value section next. But overall, we can't say things aren't costing more. But there's other factors that we have to look into. We look at something like the Mario Bava set that's coming from Shout Factory, and that's running at around 180, 190 US dollars, not Canadian dollars. This is US dollars now. Whereas their blaxploitation 4K set, which has 6 seminal blaxploitation films in 4K, is 110. And I know that may not seem like a lot, but that's a $70 difference for a set in a higher format. Now, we do have to take into factor certain aspects. Things like it may have costed more to get the rights to Mario Bava. And with that being said, were they stopped from getting 4K rights for Mario Bava? Do we need 4K for Mario Bava? And I think Bava is one of those visual directors that if the elements are there, I can definitely see his work warranting a 4K release. Well, that stopped some people, because I got a couple comments saying like, why wasn't this 4K? And for me, I thought, well, maybe they didn't have the rights to 4K. And then that gets me down that rabbit hole of thinking, does that mean somebody else does? Which, I kind of want that set. And for me, like aside from loving a lot of the work that Bava does, there's a lot of commentaries on that set that are brand new to that. And for me, commentaries hold a lot of value, more so than a lot of other features. I absolutely adore commentaries. Again, if you are a company that wants somebody to do a commentary for your film, right here. I spend my life studying films. But, I digress. It's the value that you're going to get out of it. And the fact that there may be a 4K one, the fact that there were certain films that weren't available, like on a lot of cases, we got the international versions of those films on that set. What we didn't get was the AIP editions of the films, which a lot of people in North America grew up on, whether we watched them on TV when I was a kid or whether we saw them in theaters when my dad was younger. Those are they have a certain nostalgia factor, and the Les Baxter scores that were because they were all rescored for North American audiences really holds a near and dear place in a lot of our hearts. So not seeing that in the collection for some people, I think, is going to be a bit of a turnoff, and their nostalgia factor that they would normally have for these films are lessened because that's not going to be included in the set that they have. Now, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's a great set of Mary Bava films, who is a seminal director that I think is still underappreciated to this very day. But it does leave you for some people that collect 4K, for instance, or people that are completists, so want the whole works of Bava, including the redone stuff. Now, there is an argument to be made that, okay, these were re-edited in North America, so they're not Bava's visions. So maybe there's another reason that they weren't put into the set, and just Bava's like visionary aspects of the film were put into the set. Now, that being said, we got House of Exorcism and Lisa and the Devil, so there's that portion of it to talk about as well. But without going any farther deeper into that, because I want to talk about the rising costs more in general and give some examples here, let's get into perceived value. Although there's a rising sticker cost when it comes to the price of films, they also have to look at what the value is going to be for the consumer. And each one of us has our own metric for the perceived value of something. If I was to say Criterion Collection, for instance, a lot of you that are watching out there, just based on the prestige and your level of trust with Criterion, will already perceive that to be a higher value like purchase. So when you purchase a Criterion release, for you, that perceived value is higher. So your threshold for what you'll pay for a Criterion release may be higher, for say, than what you might pay for a Scream Factory release. The perceived value for you might be higher. Now, it could be flipped around. Maybe you're more along the lines of you want like the more of the fringe or different cinema. So then Vinegar Syndrome puts out a lot of that stuff, and now has moved into some more of the mainstream aspects of it. Your perceived value for Vinegar Syndrome, because as a fan of the company, may put your cost ratio higher. So what you're willing to pay might be higher based on the company in and of itself. And sometimes it'll come down to even more so of something that you really like, or something that has the feels for you. I like the Zadichi films. So when I saw this from Criterion, one, it was a Criterion release and a Zadichi release. My perceived value for that was higher, so I was willing to spend more, and because I felt that Criterion would do it right, it would be more bang for its buck, and just over the fact that I love the Zadichi series. I think they're a lot of fun. Now, for some people, they probably never watched this series or even knew what Zadichi was before before they got it. And that's no shade or anything like that. It's just that for them, the Criterion name and their trust in the company itself is going to give it a higher perceived value. So they're going to trust that company to blind buy, where they may not trust a Severin or Vinegar Syndrome for blind buy releases. But they feel that Criterion is a company that they feel safe with for that. Or it could flip in reverse, and Severin and Vinegar Syndrome may be the ones that they feel safe with, and they may not feel as safe with the Film School in a Box company. For me, myself, when it came to a lot of this, I didn't come into it with a boutique like bias in general. I kind of came into it with the love of the films, and I found the boutique labels through that. I discovered and really got into Vinegar Syndrome because 8 years ago, even though I talked Vinegar Syndrome before 8 years, 8 years ago I started a WTF year. And when you think about WTF films, Vinegar Syndrome obviously has and especially at that point, a large portion of films that we consider WTF films, and I love that type of cinema. And that got me into Vinegar Syndrome. I am an 80s kid. I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s. So the whole slasher, like 80s genre stuff was really big for me. So when Scream Factory came out, I felt like they were reading my mind when it came to titles that I wanted to have on my shelf. Obviously, I followed through and bought a ton of titles from Scream Factory because it resonated with me. And a lot of the case when it comes to value is going to be what resonates with you. Now, more so lately, I'm finding that people are looking towards the label itself. Like people did an issue with Criterion. Um, and it used to bug me a bit, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. Because they find their identity in the label as opposed to the film. Now, Seinfeld would say, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it does beg on the question of films that you inherently enjoy and films that you're going to give a perceived value to, raising. And every boutique label or label out there wants their label to be one that's going to have the perceived value heightened. Everybody wants to be Criterion when it comes to that. Criterion has mastered becoming that perceived value. That perceived value. Vinegar Syndrome is one of the breakthrough boutique labels that has seemingly also mastered the Criterion level of perceived value, raising what the basic spender is willing to spend on that. And we see other boutique labels really trying to get to that and become that. I think that like a good like midway between Vinegar Syndrome and Criterion is the company Severin. Now Severin doesn't have at this point as much of the perceived value as a Criterion or Vinegar Syndrome does, though they're putting out titles and work on those titles in the way that you would see if Criterion and Vinegar Syndrome had a baby. They're putting out a lot of the titles that we would see as a film school in a box. And at the same time, they're putting out sets that, one, you could see Criterion putting out, or that you might have wished that Vinegar Syndrome had put out. But they're doing actually in my opinion, a much more thorough job in a lot of cases than both companies will do when it comes to this type of cinema. In other words, there's something there for everyone. And for me, that has given Severin, again, a higher perceived value. But always it depends on the person. When I started, I didn't look at the labels at all. It just became through YouTube and going on that I would eventually notice, oh, this is a Scream Factory release. And part of it comes into this. And I'm going to like pull the curtain back here for that I know for every YouTuber, whether we want to say it or not. We do know that if we put a certain label's name somewhere in the description, in the tag of a video, that certain ones will get a higher viewership. Early on, when it came to movie YouTube, when Criterion sale came around, you could be assured that those videos that highlighted Criterions, and while you'd see a lot of like early YouTubers do Criterion sale hauls and like do Criterion recommendations. When I'm saying early, I'm talking about me. I'm not like looking at anybody else. I'm looking right at myself. We knew that was going to bring in more of a viewership, and when I started talking about Vinegar Syndrome, there was me, and I think there was Piz, and I think there's one other guy that actually, looked at Vinegar Syndrome. But Piz Welch, in case you don't know who that is. Well, you should, because, really good YouTuber. We were looking at it when it had a low perceived value, when it was looked at as probably as a company that was more fringe and less important. Over the years, it managed to like really up its game and really bring itself to the table as like the company that a lot of other smaller companies want to become like, and eventually bring their company to that level. So perceived value can change over time, but it should ideally be about the films themselves. When my better half picked me up, Kiss Me Deadly, when I got the movie Blowout, when I got The Sweet Smell of Success, I didn't get any of these titles because they were Criterion titles. I got these three titles because I absolutely adore all three of those films. So, still for me, although there are films where I will pay a bit more because I know that the label is doing a good job, I do like to try and bring myself back and say, okay, what is the actual value of the films to me? So if Kiss Me Deadly was if I'm not into film noir, if I don't like Ralph Meeker, for instance, I'm not a fan of his. If I don't like Cloris Leachman, then the value of this film would rest on the Criterion label itself. And that should not be the case. I mean, you should be looking at the film itself when you're looking at the value of a film. Now, when it comes to films or companies that you trust for blind buys, or you trust more to kind of the go outside, like say you're a fan of like a company like Deaf Crocodile that really does some really good work for some very out there, unique, interesting titles. So if you like the stuff that they're doing, then your trust in that company becomes paramount to the value of that company. Whereas Sony could put out an old Czechoslovakian like animated film, and you're not going to give two craps about it. But if Deaf Crocodile puts it out, you have a trust in the curation, and curation and gives value to it. So perceived value means a lot when it comes to this. So when it comes to the Mario Bava Scream Factory, going full circle again, set, it's going to come about with two things that are major, and that is within the perceived value, and that is how much you perceive the value of a Scream Factory box set in 2025, where that ranks on your list. Because for some people, Scream Factory has fallen a bit from grace. For me, I still love the company, but that's me. And your other one, if it's not the Scream Factory one, then you're going to be looking at Mario Bava, and that's going to be your next one. And a lot of people that love Mario Bava may already have a lot of the Mario Bava titles, like myself. But it's going to be: do they want the book? Do they want this? But like, let's be honest here. Scream Factory has amazing looking box sets, and although I've upgraded absolutely every except for the third, I still get the third Halloween onto like the Scream Factory 4Ks. I would never get rid of the Blu-ray box set, which I think is a seminal piece in my collection. It speaks a lot to the type of films and cinema that I like. So my perceived value for those are extremely high. So where does that put us for the Mario Bava set? Do you get it or do you don't get it? Well, I'm not here to answer that question. It's that's every purchase in your collection should not be answered by me or any other random YouTuber or commenter or review. That should come down to you personally, what you like and what you think is going to fill that like hole of like love, of cinematic love that you want in your collection. If you're a big like cinephile when it comes to the audio and it comes to like the video, maybe you do want to wait for a 4K release. But I'd still say for something like that, do a bit of research to see if a 4K release for all of these films is something that is a viable option as well. Because that's not always going to be the case where 4K is going to be the most viable option to put that out. And also look into like what your rate is or what you want to spend. So your value on that particular box set. And we're just using that box set as an example. We could be talking about whether it's the Golden Child release that's coming from Vinegar Syndrome, or the Lamberto Bava set that is coming from Severin Films that I've yet to talk about, and I do want to talk about it. So I'll probably talk about that hopefully tomorrow on the live with Jose, or if I do a live there with Malcolm as well, we'll probably dive into that because we do tend to go into different aspects of all that stuff. But with that being said, I'll leave it there for right now. Costs are rising, and perceived value is really where all of it stands. That's the line in the sand, and sometimes certain companies will push that line farther than other companies will. And that's all a personal decision based on you. I love Criterion, Vinegar Syndrome, Severin. I like a lot of the boutique labels, but I've gotten to a point right now where for me, I have to separate myself from the label and look at the film itself and what is coming, and the other and all the bells and whistles that's coming around it, whether it's a book or commentaries or visual essays, and decide based on that whether I perceive that the value of that to be something that I want to spend my hard-earned money on. And I think it's something that we really have to do as more boutique labels and more boutiques come into play. For a blind buy, if you got a company that you're got the extra bones for a blind buy, then maybe you're a Criterion fan, maybe you're Vinegar Syndrome, maybe you like Indicator Films. Then those are going to be companies that you're going to like safely blind buy from. But when it comes to buying like cinema that we know or that we're curious about, especially at a time when there is possibilities for different regions, we really have to look at how much you value that film itself and all the package and stuff that comes around that film. Hopefully that's giving you a little something to think about. Let me know in the comment section down below what companies really hit a higher perceived value for you and how you feel about the upcoming like that Lamberto Bava set or the Mario Bava set, and if you feel that they're worth it. If you feel that it's a little odd that the blaxploitation set hit at 110 with a 4K, whereas some of the other sets are on Blu-ray with close to $200 price range. A lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to think about. I'll see you here next time in the Call to Cinema.
Oh God. Subscription sloth here. Just want to remind you that I know in the summertime especially it can be super warm and lazy. But if you're liking this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to go that step further and join the Patreon, there's a link for that down below. You can super sticker, super chat, or donate. But above all, just lie back and enjoy the video, because that's what I'm going to do.
Hey there, After Credits people. I had planned to expand this and talk about the double dipping aspect as well, and kind of dive into that and other parts of buying and where cost and cost ratio analysis comes into it. But I decided to leave that for its own separate videos. And if you're watching this far and you think there's other things that I may not have talked about yet when it comes to collecting that you really think deserves a spotlight and that I should be talking about, let me know in the comment section down below. And that'll also let people know that you're one of those snazzy people that know that there's something that comes after the credits a lot of times. See you soon.